Okay guys, I got some exciting news. That was for the thumbnail, but I'm finally negative right there. I just wanted to do that for the thumbnail. Hopefully I can use that. Hopefully I did that long enough for it to register. I think I did. Anyway, if not, there's going to be another one up there. But also, forgive my greasy ass hair. I haven't showered yet today, and was out and about after that, after knowing that. Okay, so we're finally negative, so that means I can go back to work on Sunday, because my work schedule is weird. I said that many times. So I think now is a good time to tell you my experience with COVID. Now, obviously, I'm fully vaccinated, boosted, so that basically guaranteed my symptoms to be mild. And as for the symptoms I got, so obviously the first day of this is when I uploaded the last video when I was positive. And that's the only thing I was feeling then was a sore throat. The next day, however, that's when it was bad. It was bad. So still had the sore throat, but you know, I can handle that. But I also had I think the cough was kind of starting to develop a little bit, but I also just had like a lot of tiredness and also a lot of um, every time, and it was weird. Every time I lied down, that's when the fever would hit. So every time I laid down, my fever would hit. But when I was up and about, like walking around the apartment, I was fine. But the real kicker was I couldn't keep food down. And what I mean by that is every time if I'd eat like a whole lot, I would definitely throw up. I didn't throw up once during this whole thing, but if I were to eat like a lot, if I were to eat like, you know, I would have thrown up. So because of that, my body was going into exhaustion mode because it wasn't taking in any nutrients from me in the form of eating, right? So that basically forced my body to shut down in the sense of it can't use any energy because of that. So I couldn't win. If I ate, I would throw it up. If I didn't, I would damn near faint. So that was quite an issue. But I think the most annoying symptom I had was just a dry cough. It wasn't like a mucus cough, it was a dry one. And I tell you, it wasn't easy sleeping with this shit either because what would happen is the dry cough would keep me up all night. And there was one night where I slept 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes. Not an hour, not a half hour, 20 minutes at the absolute most because it was so bad, my cough. And I was so knackered the next day, and even then I couldn't sleep because you know, I would just cough, which would keep me up, right? So that happened, that went on, and eventually I also had like a stuffy nose. I had to blow it every every 20 minutes or so, even 15 or 10. And yeah, just my symptoms, you know, they were all mild. They were all mild. I remember getting sick as a kid and having, I think it would have been norovirus, which is like the stomach bug, or maybe it was the flu. I can't remember, but that's basically what this felt like. It felt like a hangover, you know. Also, I had a headache too, so that's yeah, headache too. Also, some minor lower back pain as a muscle ache, but it felt like a hangover along with being sick as a child when I had norovirus. When I didn't have an appetite, I was like, you know, feverish. You know, had kind of a bit of weakness. I had a bit of weakness too, actually, along with this whole thing. But that was the brunt of my symptoms. And, you know, I did a test on Monday. That was still positive. I'm like, fuck. It sucked because I felt just fine, you know. I still had a bit of a runny nose, a bit of a cough, but I was like, my appetite wasn't affected. I didn't have any issues with that when I took that test. So it was very frustrating, and I'm like, is it COVID or the antibodies? I don't know. Well, I think it might have been still the virus within me. But it wasn't wreaking havoc. It was on its way out, I guess, and now it's officially out. So I guess I have BA5 protection now. And what was annoying, I think I might have mentioned this in my last video, but what was annoying is I was trying to find a way to report this positive test to the local health authorities. I was trying to find a link. I did something. I don't know if that's what I did, but it was just not easy to find because, of course, you know, it wasn't easy to report this to, you know, just the local health authorities in my area, because I wanted this to be added onto the statistics of like daily case numbers, because obviously, get that out of there, because obviously everyone's testing at home, so you don't get an accurate representation of case numbers. So, you know, I'd say this whole thing lasted about 3-4 days at the most, but it was definitely the first 2 or so were probably the worst. You know, as I said, you know, my sleeping was interrupted, to say the least. You know, I was you know, appetite was definitely affected. You know, I had to eat in very tiny increments on, this would have been Wednesday last, like, so the day after I uploaded the last video, this is when it happened. I was just, I could barely do anything, I mean, with that shit. But after that, I gradually got better. And now, there we go. Okay, so hopefully I can make one of those the thumbnail. I did that for long enough. But yeah, so again, vaccination, it doesn't work for infection. It doesn't work against infection because these variants just keep happening. But mark my words, it does work against severe disease and hospitalization and death. It does work against that because my symptoms were all mild. You know, nothing I felt was a foreign feeling to me, meaning that every symptom I had, I've had before at some point in my life, and then some. So that made it all reassuring that, yeah, I felt like this before. I remember in 2003, you know, I felt like, so it was very reassuring that none of the symptoms I had felt like, again, like foreign to me. I was no stranger to any of them. So I just want to share that negative, and that's how I was with COVID.